wee bit of the OpenAI story, but the other big news coming out of Ignite was the slaying of Microsoft Power Virtual Agent, that member of the Power Platform. I've seen it suddenly disappeared, and there's been a bit of firstly, this Microsoft and OpenAI story has seemed a little bit like we might be watching the next season of Succession, because a lot of the AI team were getting tempted across to Microsoft before were restored and Sam went back to OpenAI. The other big announcement was that slaying of Power Virtual Agents. So being removed from the Power Platform and being replaced with Copilot Studio. And some of the reaction from the Power Apps community. Actually, I'll just go back, sorry. One of the other things that came out of this, you might have seen an announcement in the news recently of potential development of even more powerful AI models that can solve mathematical problems and might be verging on that artificial general intelligence aspect inside OpenAI. So models that could get almost approaching human kind of levels of intelligence. At this stage, probably grade school level of math problems, but it's pretty interesting stuff going on there. And they called their model Q star. Some people have said sounds a little bit ominous. It sounds like things like star, but I think optimistically speaking, the results for humans should be a lot more positive than that sort of association. Now, the reaction to the Power Platform, the death of Power Virtual Agents, has been somewhat varied across the community. People may have overreacted slightly, got a little bit emotional because they've liked Power Virtual Agents. Others have compared it, this was Duca, the Finnish guy, have compared it to HAL 9000 from the 2001 Space Odyssey Stanley Kubrick movie. I think that you've seen so far Copilot being quite a lot more handy for humans. So that's what's happening with a bit of the AI Copilot. But Power Virtual Agents essentially has not gone away. It's been subsumed into the Copilot Studio. So King is not dead. Long live the King. Power Virtual Agents is still with us as part of Copilot Studio, and we're going to show you through some of that today. And the King of OpenAI is also still around. Now, it's possible, despite our first session today, that you might not be familiar with Copilot overall, so we thought we'd start with that and give you a little bit there. Are you familiar with Copilot? You'll see here Diego hiding behind Troy. Diego is going to take us through and introduce us to a bit of what the Copilot is and the studio is.
That's what I look like. I don't hold my breath.
Fabulous. Nobody came to the front. A question for you. What's Copilot? Who?
Timothy too.
Or hand to Amelia. Yes, that's engagement at its best. Well, actually, that's Copilot. Someone who helps fly a plane or a rally kind of car. And that's it. Thank you very much. What is Copilot in Microsoft world? And this is the actual definition of the word. A qualified pilot who assists or relieves the pilot but is not in command. And that's exactly what Copilot in the universe of Microsoft is. It helps you do stuff it doesn't do for you and doesn't replace you necessarily, but it helps you achieve the stuff. All right, let's give a couple of examples. For instance, imagine ChatGPT. I know this is very polemical, but imagine that you had a ChatGPT inside your Excel or inside your Outlook that could help you respond to emails, right? Things like that. It works in the context of the task or the data you're working on. So if you wanted help from a Copilot, answer an email, it will do that in the context of that email and that customer, as opposed to just create whatever rubbish. So it's contextual and it's in the app, Microsoft app and others. Now, more than 160 Copilots because Microsoft has been releasing them, the applications. However, you can create your own Copilot. This is very important. Microsoft comes up with a lot of out-of-the-box Copilots in a lot of the applications. That doesn't mean that we can create our own Copilots, just like a fully tailored Copilot as a butler that will do everything you want. So let's give a couple of examples. Imagine that you are in Outlook and you have been called for a meeting, but you had a conflict, so you decline the meeting. You can attend, but you say, "Hey, I want to follow this meeting, see what happened later." So what we've seen here is a notification after the meeting saying, "Hey, we already have a follow-up for you." That's amazing. Let's go back. Then this was going to be tricky. And after the meeting, the transcription is ready. AI goes, runs through it, and says, "Hey, this is what you missed. What are my action items?" For instance, you ask, and then says, "You have been nominated to go on that." Oh my goodness, I'll stop playing on. So you get the idea, right? You don't have to even go to boring meetings anymore. And I know in Microsoft we have a lot of those. So just get Copilot. That's what you have to do. Don't have to attend any meeting anymore. That's it. Actually works. Another example, that's in Outlook. Imagine on Microsoft Teams, you have customer and you want to know what's been going on with this customer. And then Copilot comes up with you and says, "Hey, there was a new email about this customer. We created a checklist about this project, and someone updated the PowerPoint slide." As opposed to you having to go to CRM, having to go to SharePoint, having to see emails, Copilot summarize, "Hey, about this customer, that's what's going on."
The great thing with this example is it's actually called Microsoft Chat in Teams. It knows who you are, it knows what applications you have, and understands your security context and trawls for all the grounded data they have. You don't have to say go to Dynamics and find that. It intuits. It's a word. It intuits. It sorts it out itself.
Yeah. Mind blowing.
Mind blowing.
Wow. We'll have Microsoft Copilot. This will be embedded in Outlook, Teams, AI, you name it. Excel. You have Copilots on CRM land. You have Copilots on Power Apps, as we saw earlier on. Very comprehensive demo, and Fabric everywhere. So you'll have Copilots to help you get data. You'll have Copilots to help you build apps, to do everything. So stop talking. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you with South African power how you build your own.
I've been in America for a week, so I don't speak South African anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I speak American now. So how do we extend the build Copilots? These Copilots are amazing. You can do a lot with them. There's over 106 of them. There'll probably be about 360 by the end of the year. We know Microsoft are building more. But the ones that you saw on the screen earlier are embedded into an application, they're context driven. So they only do what they have to do inside their screen. They don't have context of data outside. So one of the things that was announced at Ignite, and just these slides, we started building these a couple of weeks ago. We've updated them like 5 times. Literally, as of, I think Sam Altman has updated 3 times. Last week at Ignite, they went, "Hey, our virtual agent's gone, and we now have Copilot Studio." So one of the Copilot Studio is going to be the first class tool for you to be able to build and edit Copilots. Introducing Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is going to be the low-code way where you can go in and build your own Copilots, and also where you can edit and enhance Copilot and existing applications, and Azure AI Studio, which is now all the AI stuff that we had inside of Azure in one place, central pane, single pane of glass, where we can go and use all the Azure capabilities. So Copilot Studio, a couple of things. You can build your own Copilot. You can start from scratch with no context. So right, I'm building my own Copilot that is specific to what I wanted to do. The language models are already inside of Azure. It doesn't use ChatGPT. We always get this question, well, does it use ChatGPT? No, it doesn't. It uses what's inside of Azure in your tenant perspective. So it doesn't touch any other data. It is not used to retrain information. Also extend the Copilots. So you can take the first party Copilot, so the Copilot that you saw in Jago demo, you can say, find the Copilot in Excel or in Word. I want to extend that one specific and add more context. So when it answers a question, maybe it goes to Salesforce. It goes to Salesforce. We like Salesforce, we integrate with them, we make them better. Go to Salesforce, goes to Oracle, it's all good. Really happy. It's available with Microsoft Copilot. So the SKU for this will be included with Microsoft 365 Copilot SKU. So if you thought, well, I haven't heard of a Microsoft 365 Copilot Studio, it's new. We don't know what it's going to, how much it's going to cost, but we do know that it's going to be conversation based. So instead of being user based, based on the amount of conversations you have. The licensing for this will come out around about February, March next year, from what we've been told at Ignite. So just hang tight there, but no, it will be conversation based and not user based. My favorite part, connected platform, integrates with all the other stuff inside the stack. So if you're already using Power Virtual Agent or you're already a Power Platform builder, you're extending Dynamics with Power Platform, you have access to all the underlying layer you have at the moment. Framework or before the stuff you expected, but you can have integration to Azure AI Studio, Azure Cognitive Services, which is now called AI Search, and your Power Platform connectors. I'll show you in a moment, as well as AI Builder capability. They sort of wrapped everything into nice one little bundle. Let's see it. Now we're going to demo something that they did. Took 45 minutes to demo at Ignite. 2 Microsoft employees, a perfect connection, and we're going to do it for you in 5 minutes. So if it works, I get the chocolate. But we don't have full access to Copilot Studio because we live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is, and our data centers, even though they do have the GPT models, they don't have all the services. So what I'm showing you is based off an East US tenant, and it's got all the functionality, but I'll show you some of the core functionality. So you'll see I have access to see my Copilot, so I'm going to click into my Copilot demo. I've done a little bit of prep, but not too much. I'm going to try and make it live, so if it doesn't work, playing the demo cards is not me. You'll see the first couple of changes is on the menu on the side. I have extend Microsoft Copilot preview. End of AI stuff's available straight away for me. Click on the preview, I have options to add something called conversational plugins and AI plugins. Plugins are the way we're going to extend the Copilots, and also the way you can extend Power Virtual Agent. But enough said, let's have a look at how one of these works. I'm going to go to my topics. If you've ever worked with PBA, this is a very familiar space. And topics has changed a little bit. There's now an additional little tab across the top that says plugins, actions, and previews. This is where you can now use the power of the connectors in the back end that you have inside of Power Platform and a couple of others. Connect to systems of record and then use that to generate your conversational content. I've got a very simple one over here, Planner. This Planner. Everybody uses Microsoft to do Planner? Yep, wonderful tool. For the people online, everybody in the room put their hands in the hat. Really amazing. Right. What I've done here is I said I want to create a plugin. Plugin does differently to a connector. Is with a connector, I go, what is this? And it says, this is the answer. With a plugin, I can interact and I can use it to integrate and actually talk and work with other systems. So we've got the Planner Create a Task plugin. I won't go into too much detail on how it works. We can do that later. But I've got a little topic inside of Copilot here, and it's the update planner. What I want to do is I want to be able to create planner tasks. So from Power Virtual Agent or Copilot Studio, I want to be able to just have a conversation and have it create tasks from Planner. I'm going to use the plugins for that. Give it the typical sort of trigger word so it knows what to do. And I'm now going to go and say action. All actions have changed now, and I have access to my preview connectors and my plugins. So create task plugin. What you would typically have to do is you'd have to do a whole bunch of variables and a whole bunch of captures and also a whole bunch of questions. And once you got all those questions answered, you then can push them into the connector and the connector do something. With the plugins, it uses generative AI. So it looks at the plugin and it says, these are the required fields that I need. So I will figure out the questions to ask the person. You don't have to do it yourself. So let's quickly save that and see if we can get it to work. A typical track. Let's do a reset so we know we're not doing it from a weird place of a demo, and we'll go create a task. Typing is terrible, so bear with. This is the part where we should have music on file. Always, no, that doesn't work very well. Please create a task. So the first thing it does, it goes, sure, no problem, I can create a task for you. You like me to find the task too. I didn't put that anywhere into the logic, right? So I didn't. You should clap hands for that. People clapped hands at Ignite, 5,000 people. I lied. I didn't get that. So I can do now. I typically would have a locked in person, so I'm going to be a little bit naughty and go dot secreto.
How to spell my name?
You would have this captured in a variable somewhere. I wouldn't have to type it out. So I'm going to assign it to Diego. And what is the task called? Make. Supported daddy at work. That should do. If it has worked on, and please don't fail on us. We have a whole bunch of people watching, and it's going to be embarrassing. Yes. So it's created the task. So let's have a look. Did it actually do it? Let's do a quick refresh. Whoa. Amazing. It's like give us the ability to, with natural language, just talk to our bot. It'll go and figure out what it needs from the plugin to interact. So replace Planner here with Salesforce, SharePoint, Dynamics, anything you want to. And you can loop these plugins. You can say, go out and get this information. Like, show me the open task inside of Planner. And it comes at so I should say, update task 3 and move it to bucket, in natural language and does it for you. Amazing.
Can you connect with our Expert Logic sponsor?
Absolutely, you can connect to anything there is a connector. So if you have underlying connectors, you can run this through as well. There's a whole bunch. Obviously, don't have enough time to show you every single demo around that. The 45 minutes. So this is great. This is going to be available. It's available in GA now in territories that have it, and it will be available in Aotearoa around about, I think first quarter next year. I think Microsoft's quarter sometimes can be 6 months long.
Better math.
Right, so that's awesome. We have another slide. So let's quickly jump back to the slides and we'll take it from there. What if I want to build my own Copilot from scratch? The underlying technology you need to be able to build a Copilot is available inside your Azure tenant. Some things you can do there, and a few of you might have seen some of these demos before, but we'll add some context. You can use Azure OpenAI Studio to go and build your own model and then deploy that as part of your Copilot instance. So when we call the Planner connector, we could also call an OpenAI connector to an OpenAI model. That is using the Azure AI Studio. Azure AI Studio has changed a lot since last week. Before we had different places to go to. Now we have our OpenAI models, speech, language, and vision all in one place. And we can start interacting and playing with them. The prompt flow is inside there. Everything we need to do is within one area. If we have time, we can talk about some of the demos that they did at Ignite, but we are going to focus quickly on AI Studio itself. Any of you ever been inside Azure Open Studio, the playground? Yeah. The techie guys have. With a Microsoft shirt, you're automatically disqualified. So this is a place where you can go and take ChatGPT, for lack of a better word, and you can say, fine, I want to now make you do what I want you to do. So I'm inside of Azure OpenAI Studio as well, and the model I want to create specifically around HR information. I have a whole bunch of documents in my SharePoint environment. Who doesn't have a lot of policies in SharePoint? And now you try and find the policy. Okay, if you've ever tried SharePoint search, unless you've actually done a good job with your search, you're going to get a whole bunch of links. You have to click in and read it, hope you can find what you want. We want to make that easier, so we want to create an HR Copilot. So we're going to use the model for that. But the first thing I like to do is I need to tell my model how it's going to act. And we do that with something called a system prompt. And I've pre-cooked this already. I'm a good TV chef. I'm going to tell the model that its purpose is, and I'll try and zoom in a little bit. Yep. Its purpose is to answer HR questions. It has to use information. It has to be polite. It has to tell me when it can't find the information. Make sure that it is able to understand what its purpose is. If I take that now and I just ask it a question, I'll make sure I save this. Much leave kind of tape. Click. Should that? It comes back and says I can only search with HR information for specific. So it does actually even can't even find an answer. It hasn't even attempted to. I know the information is available inside my HR policy documents. What we've done is we've taken our policy documents from Fusion5 and I've dropped them into an Azure Blob storage for this demo, but it could be inside a SharePoint. It doesn't really matter. And I can go and add my own data context. So I can jump in and say, right, I want to add data. I want you to use cognitive search. It's going to be called AI search. I've already set up an index. So AI search is basically run over those PDFs, create an index for me, policy indexed. I'm going to say, I want you to use that as your source. So when I ask you questions, I'm not going to go to rabbit hole of how this works. That's maybe a separate conversation. I ask you questions now, only answer if you can find it in those documents. So let's quickly ask the same question again, clear chat. Be cool, I'm pregnant. See what it does now. To get open pray, demo guards, oh, that's nice when it goes. Leave entitlements for pregnant employees at Fusion5 include the following. And you're amazing. Available, you can see the little ones and twos there. If I scroll down at the bottom, it shows me references. It tells me where it got the data and how it's available. I can now take that endpoint, which is available right there. If I click on view code, the endpoint, and I can embed that straight into my application, be it a Power App, be it a Dynamics app, be it a Power Automate, be it a custom application I want to build. And we've actually done that. So there's the exact same thing, but Azure AI Studio. So if I take that same question I had earlier, and this is the demo we did in test, so this is the one that's most likely to fail completely on its ear, and drop that in there, we should get similar response. The things we've been playing around with is actually using it to do translation, so there's doing the right answer. This model is not set up with the translation, but you could potentially say, translate this into Te Reo Māori, translate this response into Tagalog. We've actually done both. And if you have that enabled as part of your system prompt, will actually use that so you have one endpoint. Are you amazed? Are you impressed? Is that amazing? Fantastic. That's how we can take Copilot Studio, very low code, all the way through to the dev world. And I think that concludes my session. My stuff. No, I just got to do the last piece. What are the differences? And I'll go super quick through this because we want to make sure we finish. Copilot Studio versus Azure AI Studio. Copilot Studio leverages your Power Virtual Agent skills. So if you can use Power Virtual Agent now, you can use it. Use the existing connectors. So if you're familiar with connectors in Power Platform, it's going to work for you. Consume, create plugins, including OpenAI's plugins. So if there's a plugin that is public available through OpenAI that you use, you can actually use it as part of your flow, which is really amazing. You will need a license. So Copilot Studio is going to be a required license. Copilot uses Copilot system for RAG. So RAG is a term you're going to hear a lot. So RAG, what would it call retrieval augmented generation. Very fancy term that says that when the Copilot runs, it looks at a whole bunch of things like what application you're in, what is the context, what is your login, what are you allowed to access from a permissions point of view, what is your intent, and it wraps all that around the prompt before it sends it to the model and says, right now, give me an answer based on this. So it's doing all that for you, which is why the answers always come out well formatted. OpenAI, you have direct access to all the models. There's 53 plus models, including some of the stuff from like Facebook. It's in your tenant, so you own it. Your data doesn't go anywhere. It's not used to retrain. Connect to your own data as well, so you connect any data source. Publish a model to Power Platform or a custom app. It doesn't matter where it is. Uses Azure consumption, how it's going to bill you. So it's going to bill you for the services you're using in Azure and how long the prompt is. They use something called tokens. If you want to know more, come chat us afterwards. Very easy, beautiful dashboard in Azure AI Studio shows your consumption. You can monitor it. You have to do your own RAG. There, you need to go and decide what your security principles are going to be, how you're going to run it through and make sure it removes sensitive information and your system prompt. I think that is, Jacob, this is your, if you want to leave, Joe.
Was just to really point out how these actually compare these two to the Power Virtual Agents that we used to have. Power Virtual Agents had that element of low code curated conversation where you had to design your own conversation, a pre-built topic and conversation library, whereas the Azure tools did not. Copilot coming along initially didn't have that kind of curated conversation designer, more about set up the models, point them at the right thing, run. Now, with the change from PVA to Copilot Studio, we've essentially moved those capabilities into the one tool set, Copilot Studio. So you still have that ability to just design your own conversation like you've always had in PVA, and the conversation flows. Still got the ability to apply the plugins and things that you had in PVA and that you got through the Azure AI Studio. But now that's moved into the Copilot that actually combines the best of those worlds. So you get the generative AI, you get the full tool set, and you get the PVA conversation designer. That's how those kind of pieces fit together.
I don't like the title. I'm Christian. Doesn't work well, but that's fine. Let's see of examples we can build with that. Troy will help me out here. Just before that, Remy, is everybody okay in Wellington? And anyone online, can you give a thumbs up? See there? Okay, it's only Auckland. Awesome. It can't be. Remy, don't leave me hanging. Nice. Don't be embarrassed. Who here works? Not many people. Yeah, employment is picking up fast. Hey, IT related work? Job? Yes. Okay, so you will understand this. Imagine that you have a meeting. And this meeting is to discuss how we can use AI within our company or specific project. Let's assume you had this meeting recorded on the phone, whatever, and you got a transcript. Team,
Might be a Zoom meeting.
might be a Zoom meeting, might be a Slack meeting, could be anything. Again, you could just simply the transcript or transcriber app in your phone, get a Word document. About any other technology. So you get this transcript. What the team has done in Fusion5, and I think that was kind of around 4 hours, just to give an idea of the investment of the effort. Power App uses Power Automate, standard connector, called the OpenAI model. 3.5 turbo. What happens is you put the transcription of the meeting here. The hero one button, it will not only summarize the meeting, will tell you who was there, the people involved, and what were the key takeaways. So the summary of the meeting is this. That's what we discuss about. Nice. Or the key points we discuss about using AI, yada, yada, yada. Have we decided we have to do this? What are the action items? This question/conclusion. Now, honestly, I have used that internally. I work in IT, as many of you. Go through a 2 hours recording or read a 2 hours transcript. Or in S. It can even generate user stories. So like,
So you might ask yourself, I can just get Copilot for Teams, right? It's going to do the same thing. Yeah, you can pay for it. So that's one thing. But it doesn't help you with meetings that are in Zoom, doesn't help you with transcripts. You might get from other companies, might not help you with transcripts. So this is we'll be using Power Platform, something if you're familiar with, the Canvas app, using Power Automate, something familiar with an endpoint. And it's actually quite cheap because we're only, in this example is a demo one, our full-blown version is slightly bigger. It's using 15,000 characters, which works out to less because it's really cheap to consume tokens, and it's a great way of if you don't you have Teams Premium, which you should all buy because it's amazing. You can actually use that with other tools as well.
it's marvelous. Does it make sense so far? You want one of those?
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff here around the formatting, the time, David said it took 4 hours. We know building a Power App doesn't take 4 hours. Yeah. But it's around about getting the model working right, making sure the RAG's done properly, making sure we're telling it how to format and telling it very precisely what to look for in the output. And that's where the testing comes in. So if you're going to be doing these things, allow time to fine-tune your model and continuously monitor it.
Amazing. Bananas? Okay. Let's have another one. A bit of a question first. Here, as hand, or still sales proposals or documentation in place with things that you have to copy and paste from previous documents. Have you heard the term RFI, RFP?
That's very loud.
It's amazing, right? We love doing those. Well, we actually have a gentleman in the room, Jonathan. He actually loves doing that. And I aspire to be like him. But for starters, I don't speak English very well. I don't think in English. I just learned English a couple of months ago. So that's one. Two, my brain capacity is not even close to his. Have fun. So what happened is, honestly, I'll spend hours writing, going back on existing documents to find what he wrote. And then I copy and paste and just repurpose, right? It sucks. Like, really stinks. I spend a lot of time doing that. Oh, why can't we get the previous proposals from Postman Sir and run Gen AI to get some nice answers? So let's give it a go.
What we have here is quite a typical type of RFP question. I need a detailed description of your project management methodology, change management, and summarize it. Now, we would normally go through all the RFPs we had. We'd look in context of the organization that is asked to push the RFP out, what product they're using. But we thought, do this into a model, and we trained the model against our own data, RFP information, a bit of a sanitized stuff for this demo, obviously. And we told it what to expect, what the context is. And if we hit the button, we once again pray to the demo gods. What it should do is run through the indexing, pick up all the information, read the 57 documents, or the index of the 57 documents, and we are using the cheapest version of Azure for the demo, and generate the content we need of that. He's putting all this information from different documents, generating, and is even giving us the references so that if we want to make sure of that from I'm not going to show you into my detail because it have a name in there, and all the information. So we're able to generate this on the fly, on demand. The more context we add to this, the better. So if I say it's a Dynamics 365 CE deployment, we'll be migrating somebody from Salesforce to CRM. We do a lot of this lately. Yeah. And there's going to be data migration. It will go and include that in the process. And the more data we follow, the more we fine tune the model, the better response we get. I think that deserves a clap. Take this content we did now, which is in the Azure web app, embed that into a Copilot that sits inside of Word. So while I'm inside of Word, I can have my Copilot go and get.
That is really amazing. So now let's do a bit of, I will incorporate my internal Amelia here. Oh, she's an amazing sales rep, that's why. And I will tell you what are the benefits, what's in it for a company lens, right? Thank you very much. Don't like slides? It's not your day. Transcript Copilot we just shown. Imagine a scenario. Don't do the math, please. You look really intelligent. Please don't do the math now. I have done it. 8 meetings a week. Reasonable, right? You probably have more. You spend 10 minutes to recap. Go to the notes and remember what you spoke and what you decided. Imagine you have in a company 20 people doing that. Sounds reasonable. That means that your company is spending 8 months during meeting notes. And that sounds silly, right? 8 months. I have a child in 8 months. Okay, the RFP Copilot we just shown. Imagine 30 RFPs a year, like 2.5 per month. Fine, right? Imagine that you have 8 hours. Guys, I do that fully for living. It's just part of the job description. Otherwise, they'll have fired me. But I easily used to spend more than 8 hours just copying and pasting documents from other places. And there are more people doing that. So in 2 people, you literally spending 3 months copying and pasting stuff. 2023, folks, like doesn't make sense, right? There's another example that we built a Copilot for HR to go through policies, right? That the Troy showed. Imagine 4 consultations a day, people saying, hey, what's my sick leave? What's annual leave? What's pregnancy leave? Whatever. And you spend 10 minutes researching it. 2 people in HR. That's 2 months. Control F on documents, trying to find stuff in SharePoint.
Amazing, Diego.
It's dumb, right?
I'll take 2.
Yeah, exactly. It's just too much time. For the company side of things, not sure if anyone owns any company here. That's also for them, right? For the employers. They get a lot of money. Say, what about my job? Being replaced. It's Terminator 2. You look pretty young. but that's a reference. Oh, you won't lose your job. Honestly, let me explain why. Because I am a massive user of the RFP1, for instance. I hate writing stuff that has been written, and I hate finding stuff that has been written. I also not a very great fan of replying to long emails. I easily spend an hour doing that. With AI, I have the time to not do that, be presenting an event like this, customer demos, whatever I actually like to do. So it's not that my job's being replaced. I just have more time to do the value-added stuff that AI, at least now, can't do it like this, right? It's pretty cool. And then also, but by the way, that's me. It doesn't look like, but it's me. I also have time to trim my beard and spend more time with family, right? Because usually what happens is you reply to emails during the day, and when you get home after 5, whatever, then you start doing the work. It should be you do the work at the time of work, and then you have some life, right? So AI won't replace you. AI will just make your life easier, work more enjoyable, and probably the outcomes of what we do are better, right? Don't worry, AI won't replace us. And if it does, at least we can enjoy the ride until there, right?
One of the things that Microsoft did recently is they commissioned a study to go and see, does AI actually make a difference? Is using AI in the organization an improvement? Does it actually add benefit? That was done through the IDC business. So a couple of things that came up is really interesting. One, for every $1 companies invest in AI, they're realizing an average of a $3.5 return. And the $3.5 return is in the context of man hours and people. So people doing what they're supposed to do instead of doing the laborious stuff like going through 10 RFPs to go and find a document or a strategy. I can have that done quickly now. 92% of all air deployments are taking 12 months or less. A lot of what we showed you, and I'm going to give away a few secrets, will take you hours, in some cases minutes, to get the basic up and running. So you can prove value. That AI, that demo showed you with the HR stuff, that is a prompt. You know how I got that prompt? I went to ChatGPT. And I told ChatGPT, I'm doing a system prompt on an AI model that helps people with HR. Can you give me an example? I use GPT-4, so that's awesome. I think that prompt, fine-tuned it and dropped it in. Yeah, so the visualization is amazing, using AI to actually build AI. An organization had implemented in less than 6 months. We've seen that now. We worked with organizations. We had a conversation with on the learning institution just for AI work with them using Azure OpenAI. And they said, well, can we do it in 6 months? And 6 months, can we just do it in 6 weeks? But it's not possible to build robust applications in 6 weeks. No, actually it is to get an MVP one out that's working well. We can do it in 6 weeks because the stuff we showed you looks like low code, but it's low code with power in the back. And organizations return an AI investment within 14 months of the deployment. These are not things Microsoft made up. These are stuff where they've actually gone to organizations using AI to see what they impact. I think this is your one.
Yeah. Lastly, I guess just to look at that importance of the value, a couple of quotes from Microsoft, such a highlighting that what Power Platform was for our previous work on developing applications, AI is going to be for that next round of work on how we interact with data and applications in a way that is, and this from another person from Microsoft, that Copilot is going to be a new AI for work. That really is about the fact that Satya was talking about at one of the previous conferences, that we've had 50 years of interacting with applications through looking at a form, sitting over data. Now we're moving through to how we'll interact using natural language. Be a pretty huge new ability to interact with a lot of our different tasks and work using natural language through different pilot of the place. I guess the key there is that can address things like people's resistance to going into a CRM to update their records. Let people work where they are doing their work, such as Outlook or Teams or elsewhere, still interact with business data, still update business data, still achieve a lot. To be some of the significance in our application creation and enable people that necessarily application.
How do you start? You call Fusion5 and we'll basically do it for you. So,
today 50% discount.
yeah, Diego will cover the cost for you. How do you start? Play. We started our journey, I think before it was even popular to even start journeys. We have a very well-established COE inside of Fusion5. We've got our champions, the evangelist group. And one of the things we found is that we had resistance in the beginning. We're at the bottom of the curve of adoption. So we focused on the people that wanted to change. We created a space where we're sharing information to the organization to show the value and to we looked at our own processes, and I suggest you look at yours as well. And then we created a backlog. We had told people, tell us how you think generative AI can make your life better or make our customers more successful. Because at our business, we're about customer success. That's really our ethos. That backlog, and we started working through that backlog. And that's why we started building these apps that started helping us internally. And with that motivation, we were able to then go and say, how can we take this to a customer? How can we actually show them the value and what value adds to them? So start playing, create a COE. If you want help, genuinely give us a call or something we can actually help you with, something we do quite regularly for organizations. And once again, thank you to Jeeves, all the organizers, phenomenal job, wonderful keynote, a bit long, otherwise good, but informative. And I think there is some swag floating around, so I'm sure if you hang around long enough, you'll get some free stuff. And I genuinely do have Copilot stickers. They aren't available in New Zealand at the moment. I've got these from Ignite. So if you want one, first come, first serve, or if you ask a really cool question, we have 5 minutes of questions, don't we, Chief? Cool questions. The people here.
I have a sticker.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I automatically assumed you would have one. Any questions, Rod? What?
Anyone has been
What's the adoption Copilot in Australia? Because I know it's from statistics that you've shown, probably might be from America.
Yeah, this is American-based statistics. So in order for Copilot to work, it's currently in dynamic in our platform. I've basically been from the States. You need to have local CPU capacity or GPU capacity and infrastructure. Not all there. We know the models are in the data centers. We can physically go along into Azure. We can see on our tenant. Don't know the usage yet. Only one thing, the excitement we're seeing. So we're customer facing. I'm not exaggerating by saying we probably do about 2 Copilot sessions, introductory sessions a week at the moment. Customers are saying, how do I use this? We have different scenarios at different organizations, all the way from generative AI to generate content to the Vision API stuff, which is blow your mind when you see it. Honestly, it's like magic. There's a lot of interest. A lot of customers want Copilot, so they're all waiting. Interest here, adoption in the States has been.
Anyone has played with Copilot already, either on a demo or trying to build? Wasn't.
So we inadvertently gave one of the first Copilot Studio demos last week because we was a Power Virtual Agents demo that was scheduled for the day it became Copilot Studio. So
You're gonna love those when you go, oh, it's changed a lot.
Which side is up, the pink or the blue?
The blue is up.
Do you guys deal with any construction industry implementation for the Copilot, like, or
Have we implemented yet? Talking to some about, again, the exploratory conversations about the Azure OpenAI kind of tools studio. Further kind of US and filing probably pending for implementation.
2 prototypes with one of the where they were using AI on top of WorkSafe documents. So they use WorkSafe as a source. And we're using it to generate checklists when they went on site. So I'm going on site, I'm resolving what is the PPE I should wear and what are the legislation I should apply to in a global. WorkSafe's PDFs and website as a source. So that was for them a Copilot instead of having to the manuals around or log onto the internet. They just had a Power App and they just asked the questions. Those type of scenarios are there. One of the things that are exciting that we're working with, but it's early days, is using Vision API. So basically, if you take a picture or a video, and you just ask it questions about the video, and you can say, summarize this video, or find the time when the person clicked off the, walked off the pathway in the factory. You think, well, that's been available for a long time, but you have to train it to do it. You have to tell it to look for a person crossing that line. In AI, you don't. You just say, watch the video and tell me, and it extrapolates itself. So the type of conversations we're having.
Of the 160 co-pilots that there are, 106,
60, yeah.
is there one for sustainability?
No, but I had a chat with the sustainability people that's coming. The push was on obviously the stuff that we Office 365, all those fun things, Dynamics, the core Dynamics stuff. F&O is a big push at the moment, so they announced the pilots for F&O for the supply chain Copilot. I saw a demo of that. That's amazing. It is context driven, unlike the Copilots in Dynamics, where it's the same Copilot as you go through. Supply chain, as you move through the supply chain screens, the Copilot changes based on context, so it's really cool. And a lot of BT Copilot stuff coming out soon as well. So watch that space.
Another really cool model that actually did with one of a large organization in New Zealand, looking at 20,000 logs from a contact center on the conversations that occurred, and using the GPT model to analyze what were the questions asked and what were the answers asked, giving that down to a fairly unique, so they could plan for what sort of conversations to tackle first.
That in your virtual agent, and then put that in your virtual
That
agent.
was the exact use case. They'll be using a generic with a human interaction in the background, and the conversation was, hi, how are you? And then there was the answer. There was actually 20,000 records, and it cost $68 in compute time. Gives you an idea of the token size. Can be really inexpensive depending on the model. Oh, there was someone asked a question. I think it was stick to.
3 times.
I'll have another one, thank you. I know.
There's an interesting example that replies a little bit to your question around the adoption, which is not Microsoft partner led, which is really interesting. It's a company I think called Law Cyborg, something like that. It's New Zealand based, and I believe they use in Azure OpenAI. So they created a bot to provide draft of law advice,
Legal precedents
exactly.
and relevant cases. Yeah.
Exactly. So there will be a lot of startups. Well, there are already, and there's some in New Zealand already using this type of model to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I think thinking partner-wise for us, we probably have to pick it up, because there will be company doing that already, and there are products in the market. So
I announced at the conference 3 weeks ago, that you can create your own GPTs and then publish it to their store. Those GPTs you'll be able to consume, Azure OpenAI Studios. You'll be able to actually consume those as well, and actually integrate those external GPTs in. This is actually with your customer or internally.
We just we at Exploited working a little bit with co-sell as well regarding asking the question, okay, I need this machine to do this and this and this. What is the best setup? Imagine that you have a car, say I want a big engine, or not nowadays, it needs to be electric. And I like red colors. So we can actually, by that kind of request, make the configuration, a suggestion of the configuration of that car, and say, hey, is that what you want? Yes, buy, please. And we can do that on a website or from external users or inside your F&O or CE or PC. Well, so that's what that direction we're going. Right now, we can ask a question, is this engine big enough for mountain driving, or is this a machine is 2,000 items a day, or that kind of thing right now. But our aim is to ask the question, configuration is just coming up, and then you say, okay, go. That's how we're using co-sell now.
hey guys, you have been sitting there for 2 hours. Jiwa, Romy, shall we give you guys a bit of well-deserved rest?
Yes.
Or let's do some more PowerPoint. Huh? Just one more. Come on.
The rock.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much.